What's up, guys? And so, Ahsoka is finally here with the first two episodes that I'm officially released on the Disney Plus. And I gotta say, especially after watching them, this has the potential to be the best of Star Wars and the Disney Plus show. After we've had some hits and misses, so especially from Star Wars alone and with the content, but even with the show in general, it's especially after the first and the second episode, I feel like the show is off to a great start as well. And so that's what I'm doing for you guys, is give you guys my review for the first two episodes of Ahsoka. Don't worry that this will be spoiler free, and also to talk about my expectations for the show, and even if it has the potential to be the best show, and so much more to discuss as well. And so if you're new here, hey, don't forget to be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, so on video business. And so let's get into it. And now, let me just say, going in the show, we've had some hits and misses from Star Wars, especially with the book of Boba Fett, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and it's especially as a lot of Andor as well. But even with the rest of them that had a side quest, especially after the last season of the Mandalorian, but even going into Ahsoka, this feels like just like Star Wars Rebels. I feel like even with the show, it's definitely cutting to the fans of the Rebel show, and especially after watching the first episode, it definitely draws you in. This the fifth season of Rebels. I think that's what Dave Filoni said as he directed the first episode. But even going into the show, especially right at when the first episode opens, it immediately draws you in for what to expect, especially when the first episode, and I feel like it feels just like Rebels. Especially with Ahsoka Tano, who is in the show. It's like we were introduced to way back in the second season of the Mandalorian, and even though with her return to Star Wars in the show, I mean, this show doesn't feel like it's in the Mandalorian timeline. I mean, this feels just like Star Wars Rebels, especially for the fans who have watched the show, and even with people going in the show expecting the show to kind of be itself, and not kind of do anything, but even with the show itself to be on its own, but even when it's so even with the people who haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, I feel like they're missing out or might be confused as they watch the show. But even after watching the first two, I'm definitely hooked, and even with the characters that are back from Rebels, it definitely feels like sort of that, but it definitely feels cinematic and of course nostalgic. And especially with the whole premise of the show is with Ahsoka that is now fighting a threat that is now emerging other galaxy, and even with her and now going to get her pals, such as with Sabine and Hera, even with the premise, and it definitely establishes that, especially in the first episode alone, it get you hooked for what to expect, and even from the opening minutes and to towards the end of the first episode, it totally ends on a major cliffhanger, especially for the second episode as well. And even with the first two episodes, that they'll be end on a cliffhanger, things that you did not expect, and that leaves you wanting more. And so that's what I did and expect. I mean, it let me want more, especially after watching the first two episodes, especially towards the end of it. And even so, I mean, I'm ready to see for what's sort for the rest of the show. Even as we talked about this in the past with all other Star Wars shows, they ended up going on side quests. But even with a show like Ahsoka, I think they might have one of those side quests. But even so, I think it might stick to the story. Even though with a show that's 8 episodes long, and just even so, I think we're in for a ride. I think that this has the potential to be a great Star Wars show on this plus, and even so, I mean, I'm excited for what the show has offers, especially after watching the first two episodes. I think we're getting introduced back into the world of Star Wars Rebels, especially with a Chopper, and even with Chopper being back, it was nice seeing the little robot back in the show. These characters have definitely been the of the same, and like even like it were gonna get an appearance with like Ezra in the show, even though with the clues at the end the solve, especially like even towards like the end of the show, I think this has the potential to be a great show. Even with Ahsoka's pals for like Sabine and Hera, especially with like Sabine, who definitely gives a good performance, and I think like she's like the same that she was as we saw her at the end of Rebels. I think she's gonna have a great story arc, especially towards the end of the show, and even for Hera, like I really enjoyed her performance. I think with these characters, they are the exact same like that they were at the end of Rebels as well. Especially with them now, I mean with like Ahsoka, and even with like Ahsoka, Sabine, and Hera, they're now made up again, even to stop this new threat. And even with the main antagonists of the show, like Baylan Skoll, played by Ray Stevenson, who had passed away before the show came out, like a legend gone on too soon. And even so, like I think he could have a big role, and it's I can't wait to see like more action and more cinematic stuff go down, especially with those lightsaber duels and that were you see, especially in the original and the prequel trilogy as well. But I think I'm really enjoying the show. I think I'm really enjoying the show so far. And now even like there are lightsaber fights that I don't go down, especially in like the first and even the second episode as well, because even so it feels like when I watching a movie for the first two episodes. Like I mean these two episodes I feel like watching a movie, and like so I just enjoyed the lightsaber duels. I went now back to that classic Star Wars action, and I just enjoyed the awesome lightsaber duels, and especially like near towards like the second episode where it really kicks it up a notch with the lightsaber duels, especially with Ahsoka as well. But even so, like I think the action is really good. Kick it up a notch, especially as we're nearing towards like even towards the show, especially like it has the potential to be the best Star Wars show, especially towards the end. But even I'm really looking forward to the lightsaber duels the show has to offer. Even for proud that this is connected to Star Wars Rebels, and there are some big connections and references, and that this show is definitely serving the fans who watch the show, and even with the people who have now watched Rebels and now check out the show for the first time, and people are going to be confused, and so I think with the Rebels stuff, and even with the connections, like I mean the show is serving as like a fifth season, and even it really established that from like the start of the show, even like when the first episode opens, and even towards like I think like at the end of the second episode, you really get those connections to Star Wars Rebels, and even like with Thrawn as well. But even so, I think like as we continue towards the show, even towards the end, I think there's going to be some big connections to Star Wars Rebels. And even with like Ahsoka, if it's going to be served as its own thing, I mean, it's clearly not because even so I think like with all the big connections and like huge things from Star Wars Rebels are definitely connected in the show, especially as like this is going to continue right after the last season of Star Wars Rebels ended, especially with Ahsoka's pals, including for Sabine Hera as a bridger, and even for Grand Admiral Thrawn, like the main antagonist. But even so, I think we'll just have to wait and see what the potential the show really has to unfold, especially with the Rebels connections, especially from that show as well. And yeah, no, with my final thoughts, I think that the show has potential to be like a great Star Wars show, especially after watching the first two episodes. I'm really loving Ahsoka so far, especially with Rosario Dawson back in the role as Ahsoka Tano, especially for Sabine and Hera. I'm really enjoying their performances, but especially with Star Wars Rebels and its connections and its references the show has, and even going into this show, I think we're definitely in for for a treat, especially after the first 2 episodes, and even for how the show is going to end. And I think we'll just have to wait and see. But I think we're looking forward to some great action, a lightsaber duels, and so much more, and a lot is about to go down as well. And so that is going to be our first video. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and what are your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka if you've seen them, and give it a rating to 1 out of 10. Give this video a like, and subscribe to turn on notifications about future videos, and you also follow my social media, which are linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.